Hello, everybody. It's Jake Sunday. I host the Jake and Gino podcast here with my co-host, the multi-family mentor, the coach of chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barber. Gino, how's it going?
Jake, I'm doing good, bro. How are you?
Nice and close to that mic today, buddy. You know how it goes. Today's guest is the CEO of Freedom Venture Investments. He is a no-nonsense investor with zero tolerance for inefficiency, and you may know him from his show, Flipping Boston. I guess that's how they say it. Boston. His blue-collar attitude and white-collar world is why investors seek his advice and why we're excited to have him on the show. So without further ado, Dave Seymour. Welcome.
What's up, gentlemen? Hey, boys. So I tell you, Jake, the speed that intro, it's like, what's left of my hair got wafted back because it was coming at me so fast right there. It's like, DJ time. But anyway.
Wafted.
Birds.
I did.
That's all I got to say.
You didn't think I was going to find a way to put in the word quaff in this podcast.
This could go real bad. I'm just going to leave it there. So
it can.
Yeah,
it can. Yeah. It probably will, but it's all good. Thanks for having me on the show, fellas.
It is our pleasure. Hey, let's get it kicked off. Tell us a little bit about your story and your first time getting into business.
Yeah, no worries. Look, I'm an immigrant to the States. Don't tell anyone. I'm not a naturalized citizen of this great country of ours. But I came over from England back in 1986. Call a background. My old man was a heating and air conditioning guy. My mom worked in a bank. I knew nothing, zero, zip, nada about entrepreneurship or anything of that nature. I ended up coming to the States because I was madly in lust with an American girl who was in London, and I didn't want to give that up. So I thought it would be a good idea at 20 years old to emigrate, get married, and join the United States Air Force.
Woo!
That's what I thought I was going to do.
Top Gun in the house. We haven't had Tom Cruise on until now. I love it.
There you go. I did 2 out of the 3. I was drinking back then, so I didn't do too well getting processed into the Air Force. So I had a few challenges. But anyway, I bopped around. Marriage worked, marriage failed. Got married for the second time. Long story short, found myself up here in New England. I moved from New York to West Virginia, from West Virginia to New England. And up here, it's funny, guys. It's like, I know you guys educate as well. And I've been blessed to be educated and to be an educator in my career. But one of the things that was detrimental to me was my financial inexperience. I always say I was a financial donkey, right? In America, it's great. You can spend more money than you earn. You just get another credit card. Don't worry about it. You can refinance your house. Real estate always goes up, never goes down, right? If you want to make more money, just work more hours. Don't be a pussy. Just go for it. It's okay. It's America. Work hard.
Make it happen. Let's go.
Right? Just fucking go, right? And, I did that. I mean, I was a firefighter, a paramedic. I worked construction on my days off. I worked retail security nights and weekends, beating up shoplifters or getting beat up myself. And there's a price to pay for ignorance, all kinds of ignorance. And for me, the price I paid was a second marriage, financial ruin. I was working 120 hours a week between those 3 jobs, and wondering why my wife didn't want to be married anymore. And my son at the time, Robert, I remember he was about 8 years old, and I was putting him to bed, and he says, I love you, Daddy. I'll see you next weekend. And I hadn't even left the house. You know what I mean? It was like I was so far away from the people that I loved because of ignorance, because of following somebody else's plan. Anyway, long story short, look, I mentioned I was drinking back in the day. I've been sober 32 years, and the closest I came to picking up a drink was when everything was going to shit really fast and really bad. It was during just prior to the crash. I was losing my primary residence because I'd refinanced it 3 times in like 18 months. I couldn't work
you just got like
anymore.
a car addiction or what? You buying Lambos at the wazoo? What happened?
I wish, brother. You know what it was? It was pretty dark. Those were some dark days. There was no joy in that bullshit. There was no joy in it. Like I really wanted to be a good dad. I wanted to be a good husband. I wanted to be an earner. I wanted to be a man among men, a worker among workers. Like that was in my DNA. That was the working class.
You wanted to be the dude. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to be okay. And I wasn't okay. And I was losing my house. And I don't know, I'm just not in a good space. And I'm screaming and shouting at my God. And I'm like, give me a sign, will you? Help me out, some direction. right? And a commercial came on the radio. It's just 2006, 7, somewhere around there, 7, I'd say. Teach Me Foreclosure, a free 1.5-hour seminar coming to your neck of the woods.
The storm's coming.
The storm's coming. I'm like, well, working construction, I'd seen these investor types. Their shoes were clean, their teeth were white, their clothes were nicer than mine, their cars were fucking Lambos, right? And I'm like, they ain't that smart. Like, I talked to them, and they weren't that freaking smart. It wasn't like they were Harvard.
They weren't wicked smart. They weren't that
wicked
smart.
Right? They weren't wicked smart from Harvard or Yale. And that's how it started, fellas. I went to a seminar, and my world got turned upside down. I began to believe that there was a different way of doing this business and living this life. And I decided to get educated, and then more importantly, implement what I learned. And that's where 90% of people fail. So that's how it started. That's how I began this journey into single families and then multis, and then, progressed to what we're doing today.
So for everybody out there, Dave waited to speak to God when he was in the doldrums. Maybe we should speak to God when we're having a great time as well. We should be grateful for what we have. The three of us on this podcast talking about real estate. We're not wicked smart, either three of us. We probably have 300 IQ combined, but our net worths and what we've been able to do, we should be thankful and grateful to God every day for what we have. And then when things do come along, that's part of the conversation every day. That's what I've learned over the last 15 or 20 years of my life, that don't wait. He's there. He's going to show you signs. I want to ask you a question. This is really going to penetrate your soul. What is being a good dad look like to you? What is being a good financial steward of money look like to you now, as opposed to maybe back then?
Oh, that's such a good question. You suck. There's a picture of Tiger Woods' father talking to Tiger when he was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And Earl Woods would always talk to Tiger eye to eye. And I think about that a lot. My oldest boy is now 27. I'm blessed to be remarried for the 3rd time. I got it right eventually. She's the rock I get to stand on so I can look cool. But with that came a 10-year-old boy and a 12-year-old son. And being a good dad for me is the ability to be present, right? Like, they live in their own special world, kids. They've got dreams and aspirations. Anything and everything is possible. And to be able to participate in that journey in authenticity and honesty is really my definition of a good dad. And I'm going to be 0 degrees honest with you guys. I suck. I fail consistently at it. Like, I've always got something to shoot for. Like, I know what I want to try and achieve, but I believe that it's progress and not perfection. And this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And, to your point, Gino, it's bringing those same kinds of concepts into being a steward of investor capital, because that's my number one job, as is yours. I cannot sleep well at night if I know I've cut a corner. I can't sleep well at night if I haven't listened to that investor and to make sure that they are the priority, right? I'm not that important. If it's all about me and cars, boats, and leather coats and, private jets and freaking Rolls Royces and all that bullshit, I'm not your daddy. That's not my game. But if it's about consistency, stewardship, relationships, being present, no ego, I find business to be a lot better. And I find, my kids run away. They don't run away from me. They run towards me when I get home. So that's a sign I'm doing something right. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Hold on. How did you have that transition, though? I mean, like, it's only been a decade or so. People go through their whole lives and don't have that shift, which you've done in about a decade's worth of time. It was all about me. You're the hero. Now you're the guide. You are all consumed with yourself and of the ego. And now you're out there trying to help others. I mean, that's a big shift in less than a decade. I probably have gone through the similar experience. I ultimately read T. Harv Eker's book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I became responsible for my life. I had a financial blueprint. I understood that. What can the listeners do out there to have that kind of, we don't want to change people. You're perfect the way you are. God created the way you are. You want to transform your life. How do we transform people's lives?
Yeah, that's such a good question too. So I'll use the acronym of HOW, H-O-W. And the acronym of HOW stands for honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And the honesty is usually the hardest one for anybody to identify, right? People tend to spend so much time justifying their decisions and their existence, right? facing the fear of the unknown, et cetera, et cetera. So honesty, be honest with yourself. True honesty, guy said to me, true honesty comes at 3:00 in the morning when you're looking in the mirror. When there's nobody around telling you you're awesome, there's nobody around telling you
what are you
suck.
doing up at 3:00 in the morning, man?
Same thing
I think like
doing,
Saban
right?
says, only bad things happen after midnight or something. What's the quote? So
I wake up at 3:00 in the morning. I go to bed at 9. I wake up at 3.
Yeah.
But it's it's that moment of introspection, man. That's where honesty comes from. For me, I can't talk for anyone else. I've trained thousands of people in my career. I've stood on stages because of the TV show with fucking Tony Robbins and all those big names. And it's like, well, look at him. He's all that in a bag of chips. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. What it is to thine own self be true. So honesty, open-mindedness. Once you're honest with yourself, are you open-minded enough to investigate change? Those that seek shall find. And then when you see that path, are you willing to go down the path? Guess what? It's not for everyone. Just because you want financial freedom, just because you want, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. You got to put the application in place. It's like I said, I learned all these things.
You got to own shit.
Right? I separated myself from everybody else because I implemented what I learned. I didn't stop at the education piece. I went for the implementation. So I don't know if that answers your question, Gino, but that's kind of like the journey for me. EGO stands for E's got out. If all I think about is me, I don't think about much, man. Right? I got to be outward thinking rather than consistently, trying to take care of me. If I can take care of somebody else first through service, then the capital and everything else follows afterwards. That's the, paraphrase Zig Ziglar line right there,
Do you mind if I add a couple little things to that, what you just said? Because I thought what you said is truly powerful. But what I've seen also is you want clarity. People lack clarity. They don't lack motivation. So you became clear on it and being honest.
Yeah.
We're all broken. Tony Robbins is broken like everybody else. You put a facade up, but Tony Robbins knows what he wants and he focuses on it. What's your primary question? It seems as if your primary question is, I want to help others. I want to impact others. Now, once you're clear about that, you move heaven and earth all throughout the day. That's what your mission is throughout the day, to work towards that. Once you're clear about that, bam. And the other thing that we can't overlook, everyone in this generation now, there's a lot of hard work that needs to happen. People gloss over the 4-hour work week. You need to work hard before you need to work smart. You need to have a hard work ethic. He's an immigrant. Immigrants work hard. My parents are immigrants. I washed dishes for 40 years of my life. It sucks. It's hard work, but it builds character. That's what it does. Another thing you need to do is you need to be committed. Because when you're committed to something, all of a sudden you see the sacrifice that you have. Now, Dave sacrifices a lot throughout the week because he's got big goals. There's some things that he can't do because he's doing other things. So for those of you out there, if you want financial freedom, you don't have to have it. It's not end all be all, but if you want it, there are certain things you can't do. I can't play golf on the weekends with my friends. Can't do that. Can't go out drinking on the weekends. Can't do that either. I have other things, other obligations. So get your mind wrapped around that. And I think the last thing I'll mention before I know Jake wants to throw in a couple of questions, education times action equals results. Dave said education. Our motto is education time implementation of action. That's why you need a community like the Jake and Gino community, because you need to be held accountable. It's scary sometimes, but when you have people around you who are like-minded, who are looking for you to succeed, who are in a Go-Giver Academy and are, out there trying to help you, and you're out there putting it out in the real world and saying, I'm going to get a deal by the end of the year. When you're by yourself, it ain't happening. But when you're with others pushing you, man, like
it's not your friends at the bar telling you, oh, what the hell are you doing? It's stupid, right? Your inner circle most likely is shooting you down versus people that are on the same path as you and the same trajectory. And then that's when the magic happens. I'm going to pull the e-brake here because you really said something that resonated with me. When I was 28, I was having lunch with my Uncle Vinny, and it was right about the time I was getting married, in the near future. We were kind of just talking about life, and I was asking about kids. And this goes back to what you said about being present. And I said, look, I've always, thought that, and my dad as well, like it was just, but we were having a conversation with my uncle and just asking for advice on kids. And I don't know, it's interesting. I asked this question a lot with people, I guess, that I look up to and that have been successful, and I've gotten various answers, but this really stuck with me. I said, so what do you think the secret is to raising kids and being a successful father? And he said, in my experience, you just spend time with them. And it was to your point of being present. And he said, if you spend time with them, you keep them out of jail. Like, I know that's setting the bar extremely low, right?
That's good.
That's setting the bar very low, but ultimately that's a good first step. If you can spend time with them, you keep them out of jail. Then we can build from that, and maybe we can create, someone that's responsible, and maybe someone that is entrepreneurial, whatever the case may be. And I know I'm projecting my beliefs on my kids or whatever there. So there's that whole other ball of issues. But I think ultimately, if it's simply going to the market with them, maybe going grocery shopping or whatever, getting outside playing catch, it's those things that create a true bond when you can drop the other bullshit. I love going grocery shopping with my kids. I don't know. It's kind of our thing. It's just, it teaches them, some real world examples of, like buying and, you can kind of budget it, and then you see what the world's doing, and you can ask questions about it. So I don't know. It struck me when you said that.
I like it. I like it. You had me at hello when it comes to that stuff. For me, it's a case of, it's not even the quantity. Like we're always trying to deal with a quantity component to it. But it's quality. My 10-year-old, we have a routine. He's 10 years old. And every morning he stands on the second stair, going upstairs so that he can get kind of like eyeball to eyeball with this great big monster of a dad that he's got. And every day he starts the day off. He says, Dad, you know what you need today? I go, what's that, Ben? You need a heart hug, Dad. That's what you need. I get a little 10-year-old heart hug every day. And if I come home grumpy at the end of the day, little guy looks at me and he goes, did you get your heart hug this morning?
You got an in-house shrink, bro.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's so good. So good. So good. And he's like, there's insight, right? There's empathy, there's depth, there's understanding. And then on the other end of the scale, they had to, what do you want to be when you grow up or something at school? This was a couple of years ago. And they could dress up and go to school for whatever it was they wanted to be. And my same little dude, he's like, Dad, I need a 3-piece suit. I go, what? He goes, Dad, I need the 3-piece suit. I go, why? He goes, because when I go to school, I'm going as the CEO of Vilcorp. I go, what? What's that? He goes, yeah, it's the #1 real estate investment company in the world. And I'm going to be the CEO. He said, just make sure I get some handcuffs. I go, what? What do you mean handcuffs? He goes, yeah, the handcuffs. They go in the sleeve of the shirt.
Cufflinks.
Cufflinks, right? But look, man, those are the days that
What's
I know.
What's up with the eye contact? You keep bringing up the eye contact. What's the ie contact do for you?
Look, man, that's good too. It's presence. It's honesty, right? It's the old adage, eyes, what is it? Doorway to the soul and all of that silly shit. I mean, think about as
something
educators,
to it though. Yeah, it's
true. Look, man, you think about it as educators, opportunity is shown, there's benefits, etc. You create a void and a want for a prospective student. But at the end of the day, there has to be a match. There has to be an honesty between educator and student. And for me, in all the years that I was in that world, I would look them in the eyes, and I'd look them in the eyes, and I'd say to some people, "You're not ready for this. You can't do this." And I'd have them convince me through honesty, through commitment, through courage, the things you talk about, Gino, right? Commitment, courage, because it ain't easy. It's got to get hard sometimes. When it gets hard, you're gonna cry. Oh, it got too hard. Piss off. Then it's not for you, right? So. That's why that's why I like the eye to eye stuff, the presence, authenticity. I mean, it's my DNA. And look, here's the good news, right? And this is such a freeing statement, and I use it frequently. Other people's opinions of me are none of my business. How sweet it is. I don't give a shit. I don't care, man. I don't care. That is freeing.
Yes, that's a hard place to get to for a lot of people. Very difficult, especially now with Instagram and Facebook. Work on it, and it's none of your business is right. I'm going to give you one more tip before I want to talk about the show and your transition to multifamily. Yeah. For all you parents out there, and I had this experience the other night, don't be afraid to say sorry to your kids. I yelled at my daughter. I acted like an asshole. She was wrong, but I compounded it. So for me to say sorry for her and sit there half an hour on the bed and say, listen, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said that to you. I shouldn't have called you that. And be honest with them. And that act of forgiveness, how hard it is for most adults to forgive. Could you imagine if we could forgive, maybe not forget, but at least forgive the person and release that anger, release that energy. If you can teach your children that, that is such a great gift for people to do. And it's hard. It's hard for me to do it to my kids, but We make mistakes. We mess up. So when we mess up, let's teach them that they're going to make the mistakes and let them mess up for their mistakes as well.
Dude, our European backgrounds are not conducive for men to apologize for anything. Let's just be direct, right? It's just not, it's not in the DNA. It's just not there. But there's something really cool about saying sorry to a kid, 10, 12, 14, 16, 27. It doesn't matter. Every time I've apologized, I'm immediately forgiven. Immediately forgiven. Because let's be honest, we do the same for them, right? We do the same for them. So why wouldn't
Dude, my son's not the same way.
He doesn't forgive you.
He's a tough little shit. Like he
must get it from his mother. He can't get it from you, bro.
Dude, 100%. 100%.
100%.
This is dude. Right now after the show, just let you know that this copy's going right to her, bro. So
well, it's Gino's godson, so he knows. So
I love you, dude. Come on, I'm the baby whisperer. He loves me, bro. You know. So, Dave, how did you get into multifamily? I know you're rocking and rolling. You're on the show. I mean, the show is a great success. The show is actually great. I love it as reality, but it's a lot of fun. When does a light bulb go off for multifamily for you?
Great question. Look, man, multifamily comes in under one heading, passive income, right? Flipping a house is fun. TV was fun. All the bullshit. Oh my God, let's go to commercial break. We've just bust a pipe and all that bullshit, right? But you know, in the right,
I've seen that script before.
Yeah, just once or twice. Oh, commercial break.
Freak out.
You know, in the grown-up world, it's passivity. You know, to buy a house, fix a house, flip a house, it's a job. It's a well-paying job, but it's a job. So I learned very quickly to get into 2, 4, 6, 10, 12s. I learned through pain and misery the joy of being a landlord in a city where I worked as a firefighter. I mean, I worked in some pretty tough neighborhoods, and I owned property in those neighborhoods. So I carried the scars. I made the mistakes. I think my favorite one was a tenant who was pissed off at me, so they decided to pour Quikrete down the toilet. Right. So you know we've all had our challenges, but if you stay the course, right? If you understand the fundamentals of a good deal, making money on the buy side, passive cash flow is a beautiful thing. You know, what would it be like if you went to bed on the 31st and you woke up on the 1st and there was more money in the bank account than when you went to bed the night before? That's in essence, you know, multifamily investing at its very, very, you know, baseline. That's a beautiful thing. Warren Buffett said, if you don't figure out how to have money work for you rather than you work for money, you know, there's always going to be a ceiling. So it wasn't, when did I transition from one to the other? I think there's a natural transition. And then as, you know, as time goes by and you begin to exercise better relationships, bigger relationships, access to capital, you know, there's always a progression. It's like I said, it's a marathon, not a sprint, this business. And then you begin to expand into larger projects. So it's never been one or the other. I'd flip a house today if the deal made sense, but everything's so stupid right now. I wouldn't touch a single family property if my life depended on it, unless somebody gave me the house for free. But yeah, that's kind of how it's always been. You know, I've always been in the game.
So what you're saying is you need to trust the process. There is a process, everybody. You're going to buy a single family, then a duplex, then a unit, then a 12 unit, then a 50 unit. And it's the same thing with Jake and myself. We started with a 25 unit, went to a 36, then a 136, then back down to a 22 because it made sense, then up to a 281. And it's that back and forth, but you have to trust the process. When did you leave? When did you quit firefighter? When did you retire?
Yeah. When the hell did I retire? What year is it now? We're in 2022. So I've been out of the fire department 10 years, 10 years. I had to quit. It's funny. I had to quit the fire department because it cost me way too much money to go to the fire department. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Because if I could just have done that and I didn't need the money, I'll be honest with you, I'd still be there. I love paramedicine. I love the fire department, but I've been out a few years now.
So discuss that transition for those of us out there. You have an identity. You're a firefighter, you're a tough guy, you're a paramedic, and now you're a prick who sits raising capital and doing all that kind of thing. That's a big transition, isn't it? I mean, like you're out
the fire department, like how the boys in the department start treating you. Like, oh, I don't know about him anymore.
That's exactly it. You know it, right? You know it. It's the lobsters in the bucket, we call it, right? As soon as you try and get out of the bucket, all the lobsters and the crabs are just pulling you back down. What's that?
That's a difficult thing. How did you work through that? And how did you, because for you to become successful, it's behaviors. Behaviors are belief driven. And you have to really understand, you don't identify as a multi-family investor. You're identifying as the firefighter or as a single family guy who's flipping houses. You're not going to have that transition. So this is really important, your beliefs and your identity. How did you overcome that?
Yeah, you know the answer to it. We're the common denominator of the 5 people we hang around with the most. It's as simple as that, my friend. And then you got to do the work. Right. However, if the work is enjoyable, you're more prone to participate and do it. So if something was, I always say, if it felt like I was pushing a donkey up a hill, I'd stop doing it. Right. I'd pay attention to God and the influences, and I'd make sure I was in the flow rather than always facing resistance, because life's too short to be involved in resistance. So I always thought about, what can I bring to the party? Because most of the time it's not money. Money's everywhere. Money isn't even that valuable anymore. We all know that, right? So what is it that you have for a skill set? So for me, I was always kind of personable, right? People kind of wanted to shoot the shit with Dave. I wasn't a dick unless you were. You know, I was amenable. I was okay to hang around. We'd have some giggles. We'd have some fun. We'd get some shit done. And to be able to identify as a house flipper, and then identify as a multifamily investor, and then identify as a capital raiser, you know, I surrounded myself with people who were doing what I wanted to do at the highest level possible, and then figure out how I could participate in those new arenas. What value did I have? You know, young people want to get in this. I say young people, I'm talking probably the millennials. You know, well, if they don't have the capital, they have some skill sets that my generation generally doesn't have, you know, automation and systems and process and spreadsheets and the stuff that makes my eyes bleed, right? So bring that value to the marketplace, bring your personality, your relationships, your connections, whatever it is that you've got, bring that to the marketplace, but surround yourself with people who are doing what you want to do at the highest level. And look, Jake, to your point, out of a 220-man department that I was on for 16 years, it's probably only 2 guys that are still in my life semi-consistently today. Just is what it is, right? Yeah. The same guys who said, you know, Seymour sucks, right? Those guys. Then they see the TV show and some success, and they go, yeah, I always knew he'd be successful. You know, he was lucky. He was lucky. Luck is the definition of preparedness meeting opportunity. And I busted my ass to be prepared when the opportunity arose so that I could execute on it. So
I hope they're sitting around the firehouse watching it at least.
Yeah, they are. Of course they are. And then they want to be your friend afterwards. You know what I mean? It's all good. I don't hate on anyone. I don't want to tear anybody down to build me up. It just is what it is. You know, you got to learn to separate sometimes, I think.
I'm sure they're celebrating it though, too.
Yeah, there are. There's some. Yeah, a couple of them. Well, you know, it's funny. I'll tell you a story real quick. My brother-in-law, my wife, I met my wife in the labor and delivery room when I was doing paramedicine training. She was a labor and delivery nurse. That's where we met. And we had a lot of connections going on. But anyway, her brother was and is a firefighter back in Rhode Island. And we went down for Easter, a family nosh. And we're all sitting with the feed bag on, and I'm shooting the shit with my brother-in-law, Matty. And he just got notified that he's number 1 on the captain's list. So he's going to get a promotion in the fire department for a captain's list. So we start talking, and he's like, well, what do you got going on? I said, no, it's interesting. I'm working with a venture capitalist company right now, and they want to invest 50 million in the company. And they're asking me what I could do with 50 mil. And I'm saying that, you know, I could probably turn that into 300 mil over the next 24, 48 months, blah, 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 blah. And you see him kind of like glaze over. Because I forget. I forget. I forgot what it's like to wait for the phone to ring in the firehouse to get an overtime to make $200. And now I'm talking about taking a venture capitalist company's 50 mil and turning it into 300 mil. And he kind of glazes over. And then he looks at me, and he's emotional. He's a good dude. And he's like, I'm so proud of you, brother. I'm like, what do you mean, Matty? He goes, I'm so proud of you. He goes, but you always had the gift of the gab. I'm like, Matty, bro, I'm as proud of you as you are of me. I'm proud that you hit that exam and you got to the next level and you're head down. I said, but it's just choices, brother. Just choices. You know, do what you want to do. You know, that's how I look at it. But yeah, expand your horizons. Hang around. You know, if you want to soar with the Eagles, stop hanging out with the turkey. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So yeah.
No problem, Dave. Though money is such an emotional topic, and if you took the emotion out of money,
It's
a free tool. I mean, so someone's doing really well, and what I've learned over the last 5 or 6 years, unfortunately, it took me forever to learn it. It's just a game. Just learn the rules of the game. If you're all playing with the game, if you're playing football with the hockey stick, you're not going to win, right? It just there's certain rules of money.
Gino, it gets weird for dudes though, because like if you're in a W-2 and you're a guy, even though you're making these advancements, like his brother-in-law becoming sergeant, you're playing a different fucking game. There's a ceiling and there's only so much you can do inside that box. If you remove the box, the world completely changes. But you're talking to somebody without a box, without a dome over him versus someone that has it. And it just can get weird because while he's proud that he's going to be making captain and everything, we're dudes, we're competitive. And so while he's just trying to have a good dude conversation, it's got to feel kind of weird hearing, you know, I'm going to turn 50 into 300 and you're going from 150 to 200 annually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're adding a lot more zeros on the one versus the other. So
that opens up
tough.
A really interesting point, right? Does money make you happy? That's the question that we're asking at the end of the day, right? If you're an asshole and you're broke, you're a bigger asshole when you got money.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a fact, right? So does money make you happy? Is it a hunt? Is it the thrill of the chase? For guys like us, bet your ass it is. Bet your ass it is. You know, do I want to win the next bid, the next deal? Do I want to bring in the next whale for an investor? Absolutely. Will I go to any lengths to achieve that? Honestly, ethically, open-mindedly? Absolutely. You know, that's part of the journey, if you will. Firefighters don't want to lose, Jake, right? If a firefighter loses, people die. I don't want to lose in business because if I lose, my investors don't do well. So it's the same core. But when you start adding zeros to it, the guy who trained me in multifamily investing, he said to me, Dave, he said, it's just zeros. He had more zeros on the way in, more zeros on the way out. He said, it's just as easy doing a big deal as it is doing a little deal. He said, as soon as you can wrap your head around it. I
disagree though, because you have a team on the big deal. You're kind of rolling solo on the little deal many times.
Well,
so I think it can get, not to get like too much in the weeds, but I think it can actually get easier in many respects. Because
no, I agree with you. You put a good team together, right? Yeah. You put a sleek, executionable team together, and everybody knows their roles and responsibilities and acts with almost like military precision. It's easy. It's easy to do those deals, I think. But you gotta stay in the game.
But if you're dealing with residents and you're doing a duplex, we call it the I'm a mentality. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do everything. Yeah. I'm gonna get slapped around a little bit. You know, I just think that the thing is though, you said they don't want to lose, and you're talking about like the firefighters, right? Nobody wants to lose. I just think it literally is that step over the line when people are going to say, okay, I might have to go without for 2 years, but I'm going to take the risk because I know there's so much more upside. It's that journey outside the bounds, outside the dome, stepping outside of the handcuffs that is very challenging for a lot of people. And here's the thing. I'm sure that your brother-in-law could do what we're doing. I'm sure he's a competitive, successful guy. He's passing tests that I would never pass, but he never stepped over the line to say, okay, I might have to go without for a couple of years to get to where I want to be. And so many times that's the trade-off that 99% of people will not make.
Jake, it's a mind shift though. Before we go to the short answers,
it's scary.
I need to make this one point because it just hit me right now. What your brother-in-law is doing is what I was doing before I became financially free. He's chasing money. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. But when you're financially free, Dave is now chasing opportunity, which leads to a ton of money. And that's just people see the world as they are, not as it is. So once you get to those iterations and those inflection points in your life and you become financially free, it's not about the ego. It's not about me. I couldn't do Jake and Gino when I was working at the restaurant. I tried. I had to pay my bills first. Then when my bills were paid through multifamily, I can start thinking about others. And ironically enough, when you start thinking about others and you get 50 million from someone, turning it into 300 million, and you're chasing that opportunity, the more opportunities and the bigger opportunities you chase, the bigger the money is. So all that is, guys, is just a change in your mindset.
But it's also ultra conservative and really worrying about the downside and not ever, having a time without. Like, I think that's a big component of it. I really do.
Here's one of the common threads that I've got from guys I worked with in the fire department. And then we'll use Matty, my brother-in-law, as an example. They always say,
Matty, we're not roasting you. We're just sorry.
No, I'm loving on you, Matty, bro. Yeah. It's all good, brother. You know I love you. The common thread you get is, wow, man, I can't believe what you're doing. That's way too risky, right? Risky, risk. They always do risk. And I learned a long time ago, from the very first time I attended a seminar and then implemented what I learned is that it's not higher the risk, higher the reward. That's broke mentality to keep people out of the game. What it is the higher the education, the lower the risk. The lower the risk, the higher the implementation. The higher the implementation, then the higher the opportunities. It's as simple as that. So that risk reward balance that we learn from way back when, time is money, risk and reward, all of the same shit that's been passed down generationally. The day that I realized the more I know about something and then implement it, my risk exposure is reduced, because I either, make my own mistakes and pay for them, or I buy somebody else's mistakes through education. Either way is okay. Guess what? You're going to pay for them one way or another. You just choose, which pain course of action you want to take. How painful do you want something to be? So it's an interesting time, man. It really is. And to your point, 200, the guy said to me one time, he said, there's a guy who had 5 million, and he goes, holy shit, I've only got 1 million left in the bank. Then there was a guy who had 500,000 and he's only got, 100 grand left in the bank. 50 down to 10. He said, and then there's some poor bum sitting on Skid Row, and he's like, man, last week I had $5 and this week I've only got $1, right? It's all relative. It's quality of time, eyeball to eyeball, going full circle back to the Tiger Woods analogy there and the visual with that. So for me, I don't want to chase money ever, right? But I do want to chase opportunities, because then the money chases me, and it's a lot less work raising capital that way, so.
It's just interesting, because the things that we know and that we've learned are never taught in school. They're never taught in college.
Yeah.
Think about that. And this is not me having an ego right now. It's me clearly understanding that everything that I've learned in business has either been on the streets, meaning, going it alone and getting my ass kicked, or paying for it. And we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on education. We're not this smart. I mean, just to be clear. And so we've either learned it by doing, and it was the hard way, but we still learned a lot, or we've hired mentors. And none of it is in the everyday sort of ecosphere that is what we call society. It's just not, it's not going to be in school. It's not going to be in college.
Why isn't it out there?
Henry Ford, man. It's Henry Ford's fault. He wanted to produce a bunch of W-2s. Okay. I'm blaming it on Henry Ford, bastard. I'm sure you have an answer.
Well,
no, I don't. I really don't. I wish I did.
But I mean, think about it. Like they started, like whatever, it was 1920s, a public school and everything. And it was like, hey, let's get these people in line, give them the lunch pail, and create a string of W-2s to implement what we need to produce for society, for wars, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. And it's just, it's mind blowing that this stuff is so elusive unless you seek it out. You have to seek this stuff out. And when you do, and you land on it, it starts to stack, and you're like, oh, here's another iteration. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do this. And it's kind of nuts when you really think about it.
I remember the first time somebody told me about this thing called a self-directed IRA.
I thought he was going to say cost segregation, but I got you.
Well, cost seg is pretty cool too. But the first time somebody told me about self-directed IRAs, and I'm like, what? Guy goes, yeah, you can direct your own retirement. So I go, no, you can't. He goes, no, you can't. You can't. I got a government pension, buddy. I'm a firefighter. And I took when I left the fire department, I took that government pension. And I remember going to City Hall to get the check. And the guy behind the counter, I knew him personally. And he's like, do you know what you're doing? I'm like, what? Does you know what you're doing? I go, yeah, Ralph, I know what I'm doing. I'm taking the money out. He goes, if you take it out, you can't put it back in the city pension. I go, I know. He goes, look, Dave, he said, I did you a favor. I ran the calculations. I go, you did, Ralph. That's great. What's up? He goes, I did the calculations. He said, if you take this money out, he said, you're going to be giving up $375 a month when you turn 65 years old. I went, oh my freaking head. I said, Ralph, thanks, man. Thank you. Give me my check now. Give me
out of this government institution.
Right? Get me out of this bullshit. And it's, it's the same with the 401ks and all that stuff. self-directed, turn that money over probably 3, 4, 5 times. If I look back at the math, just being able to be a private lender, hard money lender, that kind of stuff with the capital that was there. So it's education, right? Surrounding yourself with people who are doing things different from what you're doing to experience different results,
Jake, I'm going to bookend this before we go to the short answers. Smart people learn from their mistakes. Wise people learn from others. So take it for a grain of salt. I think Jake and I have been smart for a lot of years. All of a sudden, we're turning to be a little bit wiser and trying to learn from others and going out there and seeking. Success leaves clues, everybody. They're out there.
Yeah, it does.
You either pay to play or you seek to serve. Those are one of the two ways. You choose it. Your choice. You want to pay to play? Great. You're older, you can afford it. If you're younger in your 20s, you go out there, you find a Dave Seymour and you say, Dave, how do you take your coffee? Facts. On Dave.
No, he says, Dave, let me do your spreadsheets for you, big boy. He says, okay,
that's it.
Right. I knew
that's how you get in. And
that's
how my partner, joined my team. We're a 4-man team at Freedom Venture. And one of our team members is a kid by the name of Eric Wilson. He's our chief operations officer. I stole him from Fidelity. He was part of a think tank. They hired 20 people nationwide at Fidelity to write algorithms to predict market cycles. That's how smart this kid is. And I'm like, I'm going to take you if you want to come play with me. You know what I mean? The kid's brilliant. So yeah, wonderful. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I need. The shit I can't do.
No doubt. All right, guys, let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor.
Are you looking for ways to improve your life?
Here at Jake and Gino, our mission is to empower students through financial education and the vehicle of multifamily investing.
Yes, Jake. We agree that a person with financial intelligence can change the world for the better.
We've created our proprietary 3-step framework, buy right, manage right, and finance right, that we teach to our community. This framework, along with education, our one-on-one mentorship, on-site boot camps, and the amazing community has propelled our students to massive success.
We've all been there. We've had so many students that have been able to shift their mindset, overcome limiting beliefs, and set a clear path to achieve their goals. Whether you're currently fixing and flipping, wholesaling, or buying single-family rentals, and you know that multifamily investing is the right vehicle for you, I encourage you to visit jakeandgino.com/apply to schedule your complimentary consultation with our team. And I want to let you know this isn't a high-pressure sales call. It's really just a discovery call to get to know each other better and see if we're a good fit for working together. And if for any reason we're not a good fit, our team has tons of resources we will share with you to help you along your journey.
If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels, go to jakeandgino.com/apply and schedule your call now. All right, we're getting long in this. We're gonna go quick here. I have a few more for you. Love hearing people's habits. So anything that you do on a daily, weekly basis, a habit that has helped you out and that may help the folks out.
Yeah, look, habits are always fundamental. I'm an early bird. I'm up at 4:30, 5 o'clock every day.
I knew the 3 a.m. was bullshit.
I'm up early every day. I got a routine. I like to take a little time just to sit. I'm not much of a big meditator, but I try and, just plan what my day is going to be. I know what I'm doing the night before when I go to sleep. I schedule in good operations to know what's a priority. I like to prioritize the days going forward. I try and work out. I don't do well at that either, but it's just a case of prepping the night before for the day ahead, so that I'm not guessing when I get into action the next day. I think that's a good habit.
I think it helps the subconscious too. There's definitely something to that. So
yeah, for sure.
Any tips for scaling a company? I think that's something we struggled with quite a bit. Anything that you've done that has helped you scale, or can help folks when they're out there bootstrapping early on?
Yeah, that's a great question too, man. Look, for us, it was a case of who can I get to work for free? Who can I get to work for free that has skill sets that can help the company grow, knowing that they can participate down the line? We run a very lean machine at Freedom Venture. I've got maybe 300.
Did you get your quant to work for free?
I did.
Tell me. Well, let's do a real example. Talk about that early on in the relationship.
So look, Eric was, he'd take that with pride.
He's in the closet smoking cigs and you're having to punch numbers. I get it.
So I was teaching a 3-day seminar right? I was teaching a 3-day class around commercial as well as single family. And he was 26, 25 years old, good looking kid, young, strong kid. And you guys know when you teach, there are certain people in that crowd that grab your attention, right? They're just on the same wavelength. And that was Eric. And he invested, I think it was $35,000 in his education that day, that weekend. And he said to me afterwards, he's funny. He said, I only invested that money so I could get your cell phone number and email address. Because whenever I've taught and somebody invests, I want to be available to them personally. And anyway, we started this journey. He's still working at Fidelity. We're building out some systems. We're planning together of what it could be like. And it got to a point where he was working so much with us that, you know, Fidelity was like, hey, what are you doing? And he went into Fidelity for an exit interview. He told him he was going to quit and transition over full time with Freedom Venture. And he came back from that meeting. He came into the office, and I'm like, how'd it go? He goes, not good. I'm like, why? He goes, you know, they kind of hijacked me. They offered to double my salary if I stayed. And I'm like, inside, I'm thinking, because he's the same age as my oldest boy, I'm thinking, that's awesome, man. You just doubled your salary. He goes, I told him, no, thank you.
He's gangster. Like, I love this kid.
I'm like,
shove it up your ass.
Yeah. And now
you really love the kid, right? Now you're like, I got to make it work for this guy. Holy shit.
That's exactly it, Jake. So you went exactly the same place as me. I'm like, fuck, now this has got to work, right? So that, you know, that's a real world application. And this guy has been an absolute machine.
He's a killer, huh? Holy shit.
He is. Yeah, he is. We got a national marketing company that wants to do some work with us. And Eric ran some spreadsheets by him, some pro formas. And the guy who runs this company, they're a multi-million dollar, like $150 million marketing company. And he's like, if Eric ever wants to leave you guys, I'll take him in a heartbeat, and whatever you're paying him, I'll give him 4 times the amount of money. I said, keep your hands off. You can't have him. So yeah, he's a machine. He's a machine for sure. So yeah, that's scalability for me. It's having the right players in place, being able to, you know, work. It's not just monetary value, right? At the end of the day, it's, do you want to be around them? Because if I don't want to be
sounds
around
like you guys have beers together, or well, you used to would have, you know, but like you kind of guy you go out and have a steak with or whatever, right? That's what I'm saying.
We have more than one steak. Yeah, we do. And then my other partner, Walter, he's a couple of years older than me. He's ex-special forces, military. So he brings a whole special kind of skill set to the scalability.
Well, he can kill the guys that are trying to poach Eric. I get what he's there for. You got the muscles.
We always say we're gonna wait in the bushes outside their house if they give us any shit. Yeah. So anyway, that scalability for me is the right team members and being able to everybody stay in their lane. Communication's great, but stay in your lane. Otherwise, it gets really, really messy really quick.
Yeah. Last question. Any book recommendations? Anything that's benefited you personally, professionally that you want to shout out?
Yeah, I just finished reading. Well, I don't read. I listen. I just finished listening to Pitch Anything. You know that book? I can't remember the author's name. What is it? Orclef. Great stuff. I mean, frame-based selling. I mean, that's what we do every time we get on the phone or get on
the croc brain master. That guy is, man, he's a hoot. We had him on. He's a riot. Yeah.
That's you know, that's it's interesting. My own career in selling from stage was pretty dynamic, and it's interesting to see the mechanics that I was already using, you know, just through my DNA makeup, rather than, you know, finding a box to put everything in. And when I found out afterwards, I'm like, yeah, I am pretty good at this shit, huh? I've been using that croc brain stuff and not even knowing it.
Maybe so yeah, it was
good. It was a good read. Yeah, I was born with it, right? So yeah, that was a good read or a good listen.
Okay, real quick, Gino's going to wrap here. Freedom Venture, where can folks find out more about it, more about you? What's the spot?
Yeah, we're old school. I got a phone number, 781-922-4418. If you do reach out to us, just let us know that you heard us here on the Jake and Gino show. Dave Seymour, Freedom Venture Investments, Seymour, Seymour. If you want to find me, you can find me.
He's out there.
Jake, the year is 1986. Mr. Dave Seymour comes over from England. He's looking to get married, looking to join the Navy. And I forgot the other thing, but he gets
He was drinking with Tom Cruise.
And what happens? Gets married, becomes a firefighter, and starts working 100 hours a week. And to him, that's tough. How do you raise a family? How do you stay married? You're focused on the job, and that grind becomes difficult. But what an amazing transformation. He didn't change his life. He just transformed his life, getting into real estate, going to that one-day seminar, and that all of a sudden transpired into an empire where he's talking about $50 million deals with people who don't understand. And for everybody out there, listen to Dave's story again. Just trust the process. Become clear on what you want in life. There's no one else out there that knows the answers to your own story other than yourself. So get out there and get clear on what you want. And just listening to his story from the single family to flipping to single family to the multifamily and now putting these gigantic deals together. It's been amazing. I've really enjoyed the story, the transformation. I mean, getting on TV, building that out. It's been, been an honor and privilege having you on here, Dave. I appreciate it.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate you too. It was good.
Education times action equals results. Dave, you are the man. Really appreciate it today, and we will see you next time. Thanks, fellas.